Now, you said about
Whose turn is it to buy the drinks? There's a pub there.
we got to get this done. Right. Now you talked about your waist, which isn't that bad for.
No, I'll tell you something about that. The heaviest I've ever been is 15.5 stone. And I played tennis up to about a year ago to a good standard. At 70, I only started playing when I was 53. The village club I played at, I played in the local leagues. Started off in the 6th team when I was 53. Never held a tennis racket in my life. By the time I was 62, been playing about 8-10 years. I'd gone from the 6th team to the 3rd team. A little bit out of my depth, but maybe they were desperate for. I won as many as I lost in the 3rd team. Got dropped to the 4th team when they got a couple of good youngsters coming through the ranks. More than held me home in the 4th team, and loved every minute of it. Played to win, which I did at cricket and rugby in my youth. Got a bit annoyed if people started cheating. Had a few face-to-faces at the net with the opposition when they were calling my good shots out, my winning shots. They were calling them out. I called them a cheat.
Talking about cheating, you cheated a bit with some not illegal substances, but something to keep you awake.
Oh Jesus!
Tell us about your Pro Plus scare.
Well, I'll tell you what. I probably went down to about 5 terrific shops, and I had a girl working for me, Saturday girl, and she worked on nights at a factory, Monday to Friday. Came from her night shift on a Friday, went home for 2 hours sleep, and came and worked for me in the betting shop at Holland, which was a very busy shop, on Saturdays. And by this time we were open for night racing. The 6:30 shut had gone out the window. We were open till 9:30, I think, 10 o'clock maybe. And by the end of August, coming to the end of the night racing season, I worked through the summer. I was working 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. I think it's 90 hours, isn't it? I'm not bad at maths. And anyway, I was like a zombie. I was so tired I couldn't sleep. I was in work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was still there at 11 o'clock at night, doing security and that. I didn't delegate like I should have done, but finding people you could trust wasn't easy. I did a lot of sackings. A lot of people got the P45s for being dishonest. Anyway, yeah, so she said to me, "Ron, you look knackered." I said, "That's because I am. I don't look it, I am it." And she said, "Look, try these." She said, I take them all the time with working these night shifts. And it's called Pro Plus. I said, "What's this? Why are you putting me on drugs?" She said, "No, it's over-the-counter stuff from the chemist." She said, "It's like caffeine, it's a boost, keeps you going." Oh, I said, "I'm in for some of them." I said, "Give me some, please." She did. I didn't get hooked on them. They're over-the-counter, they weren't drugs, they were just a booster. But the last 2 weeks of the night racing season, that being every August, I was taking them every day. I was just gone. And anyway, so I sold 4 shops in 1999. Probably needed the money after that punter took 30 grand off me for United the same year. And I sold them, guess who I sold them to? My mentor, Frank Seymour. He was then MD of Dave Pluck Limited, a Wirral firm. They had about 10 shops, and Dave Pluck, strange fella, I met him a couple of times with Frank, could never weigh him up, he was a bit weird. Frank told me since. Frank retired and he died this year, so sad about that. And because we became very, very good friends. Anyway, I was going stale. I hadn't got the appetite for the further expansion. I was down to 5 shops, all good shops. And I said to Frank, "I'm going to sell 4 shops. Do you know," he said, "I can tell you're falling out of love with the game." I said, "I'm tired, Frank." I said, "I just want one shop." I said, I've got a cracking shop, the one I built myself. I said, it was doing 38 grand a week cash. There was 20 shops in Warrington. It was head and shoulders the best shop in Warrington. And it was all through me, through hard work and dedication. Anyway, I sold 4 shops to David Pluck Limited. He made me a miserly offer initially, being the man he was. Great friend, as I said. And anyway, I squeezed another, I think it was another 600,000 out of him on his first offer.
But what about these Pro Pluses, Ron?
Oh, the Pro Pluses, yeah. Well, no, this is when we were down to one shop.
Okay.
So I was only, when we got down to one shop, the good top shop, well, they're all good, but this was the cream on the cake. And Colin's day off. So it was a Tuesday, and I was working Tuesdays and Saturdays or whatever. The lad needed a day off. We were open 7 days a week then. And it was his day off. And somebody had invited me out for dinner somewhere on the Monday night. And I got home 2 o'clock in the morning in a taxi, and I was shit-faced. So I went straight to bed, knowing I'd got to get up in the morning to go and open the shop up. I got an hangover of all hangovers when I got up the next morning. I was tired, I hadn't had enough sleep. I had about 5 hours sleep, which was, I've always been a long night sleeper, so to speak. I can sleep 10 hours. And I ain't got a guilty conscience, you see. And anyway, I go into the shop, open the shop up. I felt like death warmed up. But prior to leaving the house, I looked in the medicine cupboard, and there's these Pro Plus. Oh, I thought I'm having them for my breakfast. So I got to the shop, takes 2 Pro Plus. Half an hour later, I couldn't stand up. I just felt so ill. And the hangover was wearing off. I had to ask a punter, who I trusted, to come behind the counter because the cashiers didn't come until an hour before the first race. And I said to Tony, I said, I feel so ill. I said, I can't take bets. I've got to sit down on my desk. I said, come take the bets, please. Showed him how the tills worked. He was all right, and I rang Colin. I didn't want to ring him, he deserved a day off. I said, you're going to have to come in. I said, I feel dreadful. I didn't tell him what it was all about. I said, can you please come in? I said, I probably need to go to hospital. I said, I feel so bad. Didn't tell him what I'd done. Anyway, he comes in. I could see his face. He was scared out of his wits. What am I doing? Is my dad having a heart attack or something? So he said, what's the matter? I said, something's not right. I said, I might be having a heart attack. I said, ring an ambulance. Ambulance came, took me out of the shop on a stretcher. Everybody in Warrington, the birds were singing, Wadey's had a heart attack. So I got in the ambulance with the paramedics. They did an ECG, found nothing wrong. Said, we're going to take you to hospital, just to be sure. I met a doctor, a lady doctor. She was only in her late 20s. What a brilliant young girl she was. She gave me the best examination, and she was pretty as well, I've ever had in my life. And she said, tell me everything you've done today, what you've had for your breakfast, what time you got up out of bed. So I told her the full story. She said, oh, by the way, by this time I'd taken 4 Pro Plus. The first 2 never touched the sides. Anyway, she said, where's the Pro Plus? I said, they're in the office, in a pigeonhole. She said, do you know the expiry date? Not a clue. I said, they were at home in my medicine cabinet. I said, not a clue. I said, been in the medicine cabinet. I said, I've not took them for years. I said, I'm down to one shop. I'm not under the same pressure. I'm not working anywhere near as hard. I'm a millionaire now because I sold 4 shops. I said, I don't know. I don't need Pro Plus. I'm not bought them for years, but these were in the cupboard. They've been there for ages. She said, this is why I'm asking you the expiry date, plant pot. So I said, nobody calls me a plant pot. She said, well, I just did. I said, well, you can, nobody else can. Anyway, I rang Colin in the shop, said, there's some Pro Plus in the pigeonhole. Can you see the expiry date, please? So he said something, they were about a year out of date. So I said, they're a year out of date. Ah, that answers all the questions, she said. Those Pro Plus things, if you leave them and let them go out of date, they ferment. She said, and what you've taken 4 of them that have now fermented, you've taken a low dose of heroin. That equates to a low dose of heroin. And I was dumbstruck. And I, trying to be funny, I said to her, so am I a drug addict now then? And she laughed, and I laughed. And she said, look, she said, they're caffeine. She said, I think you've got an allergy to caffeine. And she was right. I started drinking decaf coffee after that.
Right. Now,
panic attacks I was getting.
so that's the story about the Pro Plus.
Yeah.
You've got a rat along, you've got loads of stories. What about your love of greyhound racing? Tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, and I was in love with greyhound racing. How did it all start? Oh, I had a girlfriend whose brother was a trainer at Bellevue, a guy called Otto Queries. He now lives in Ireland near Turleys, not Thurles, Turleys. Me and Otto, we got to know each other. He used to come around my house for dinner with his wife and that. I'm a good chef. I'm good at most things, Simon. Anyway, and I'm a big head. And anyway, I got to know Otto, and he said, why don't you buy a dog with me? We'll go half eat. He said, I've got good connections in Ireland, but let's spend a few bob. I said, how much do you want to buy? Well, he said, let's spend 2 or 3 grand a piece and have a dog worth 5 or 6 grand. He said, I've got my eye on one now. He said, you won't buy 2 legs of that? I said, go on, I'll go for it. I've never owned a greyhound before. I'd had shares in horses. Anyway, so we buy this dog. We went over, watched it win an unraced stake in Harold's Cross. It's a dog called Winter Fair. And it turned out, I had 2 better dogs on paper than Winter Fair, but he was open class, and he turned out to be a right gambler, a dog to gamble on. You could trust him as long as he was in trap 6. And I knew this. I brought him, eventually, to cut the story short, I brought him over to Chris Lund, independent trainer, who trained a lot of dogs for Harry Finlay. And there was an open race at Bellevue on a Sunday night. And Chris and I agreed that the dog needed to have a look at the track. So we gave him a solo trial on the Wednesday, and he did a very mediocre time, to be honest. He put him in trap 3 for the solo, and don't know why the dog didn't do a good time at all. He was lucky to get in the open race. Anyway, he got him in, and I said, whatever you do, Chris, seed him wide. And I didn't tell him why I said that, but I knew what he'd done in Ireland out of trap 6. I had a 4,500 to 2 in Kilkenny on him, from 9 to 4 into no offers, against a Irish Derby finalist in the same race. My dog 5 lengths clear at the bend. He's massive early place, he won 2 lengths.
So you don't have dogs anymore?
No, it was a phase in my life. I have phases. I'm 75 now, and I don't look it, and I know I don't act it, but I am. Like, I've still got things to do. I've got dogs, 2 bull mastiffs.
Right, well in part 4 we're going to find out about the latest phase, so stay tuned everyone.